Hi. In my last video, I had walked you through how to fill application for a primary applicant for Poland visa application. In this video, I will walk you through how to fill visa application for Poland for a dependent spouse. Hi, welcome to Teach Me K channel. If you are watching my video for the first time, please do subscribe to my channel to stay updated with my videos. Also, don't forget to like and share this video. Let's get started in understanding how to fill visa application form for a dependent spouse for Poland visa application. So what you see on my screen right now is the application form filled up for a dependent spouse. For your easier understanding and reading, whatever contents has to be filled, I have made them in red colored fonts here. So let's start with the first question, which is the surname or the family name. So here please mention the last name as per passport after marriage. What is present in the passport, please mention the last name here. So going to the second question, which says surname at birth, it should be the former family name. So here please mention the last name which is before the marriage. So going to the third question, it should be the first name as per the passport. So fourth question, please mention the date of birth as in the format of DD-MM-YYYY. And place of birth, please mention the place name here. And going to the sixth question, country of birth, please mention your country. So here I have mentioned it as India. And going to the seventh question, current nationality, it is Indian. And nationality at birth, if different, so if there is a different nationality at the time of birth, so please mention your nationality. If it is not applicable, you can mention it as not applicable. Please ensure that each of the questionnaires should be filled and not be left empty. So going to the eighth question, which is the sex or the gender, please mention the gender appropriately here. And going to the ninth question, which is marital status, so please mention here as married. And 10th question, so this is specifically for minors, so you could mention it as not applicable. 11th question, which is on national identity number, so mention here as not applicable. So going to the 12th question, the type of travel document, so please mark ordinary passport. So going to the 13th question, series and number of the travel document, please mention your passport number here. And going to 14th question, date of issue, please mention the date of the issued your passport. So in the format of DD-MM-YYYY. And going to 15th question, which is valid until, so please mention until when your passport is valid in the format of DD-MM-YYYY. And going to 16th question, so it is actually hidden under the row here, so please mention the place where your passport is issued. So going to 17th question, which says applicant's home address and email address. So address, please mention as it is mentioned in the passport of your spouse. And email address, you could mention the spouse personal email address here. And similarly, the telephone number, please mention your spouse telephone number here. Going to the 18th question, which says residence in a country other than the current country of current nationality. If there is a different nationality, please mark it as yes and mention the country's address. If there is no different nationality than the current nationality, please mark it as no. And going to 19th question, it should be the current occupation of your spouse. So if your spouse is working or any professionally working, please mention the occupation here. If your spouse isn't working, you could mark it as no occupation. And going to 20th question, so this is not applicable for your spouse. Please mark it as not applicable. Going to 21st question, main purpose of the journey. So here, since it is your dependent spouse who will be accompanying along with you as a primary applicant, so please select as others option here and mention it as dependent. So going to 22nd question, where the 22nd question is member state of destination, which is already Poland, which is already filled. And the other question is member state of the first entry. So here you need to mention your first city in Poland that you are entering into. So here I am, and my first entry would be to Warsaw, so that is why I have mentioned as Warsaw, Poland. So similarly, you need to mention your first entry where you are going to in Poland location. And 24th question is number of entries requested, so please mark here as multiple entries. And going to a 25th question, duration of intended stay of transit, so which asks and indicate number of days, so please mention here as 365 days. And going to 26th question, this is on Schengen or national visas issued during the past 5 years. If you have already been in Schengen countries earlier in the last 5 years, you could mark it as yes, and you could mention the dates of validity there. If you have not traveled in Schengen countries in the last 5 years, you could mark it as no. Similarly, for 27th question, if it is again related to the Schengen visa, so if you have already traveled, then you could mark it as yes. If not traveled earlier in Schengen countries, you could mark it as no. So 28th question is already filled, so you need not worry about it. So going to 29th question, which is intended date of arrival to the Republic of Poland. So here it should be your travel date when you are actually starting to Poland. So in the format of DD-MMM-YYYY. And going to 30th question, so this is the 365 days, because you are applying for 365 days here. So your 30th question should be the last date considering 365 days from the start date what you have put in the 29th question. So that should be the last date in 30th question in the format of DD-MMM-YYYY. And going to 31st question, which is surname and first name of the inviting person in the Republic of Poland. Since you as the primary applicant who would have already applied and your dependent spouse is accompanying with you, so in the 31st question, so please mention here the first name space last name of your spouse who is the primary applicant. And the sub question of 31, address and email address of the inviting person. So please mention here your spouse Poland office address and also the email address of your spouse, which should be an official email address. Similarly, the telephone and telefax, please mention your spouse Poland office telephone number here. So going to 32nd question, which is the name and address of the inviting company or organization, please mark it as not applicable, because since you are the dependent and accompanying your spouse, so this question is not applicable for you. Similarly, the telephone and telefax of the company or organization, please mark it as not applicable. And the sub question of the same, surname, first name and business address, please mark it as not applicable. So going to 33rd question, so since you are accompanying with your spouse as a dependent, so in the 33rd question, please mark the ones which I have shown here, So in front of by a sponsor, please mention your first name and last name of your spouse who is traveling as a primary applicant, and select all expenses covered during the stay, that it is taken care by your spouse as a primary applicant, and also choose the option as others. So here you should mention the first name, last name of your spouse who is the primary applicant. And going to 34th question, from 34, 35, 36, so these are not applicable for me because these are on the on the work permit of who, if there is any family member staying in Poland location. So these are the details required. For me this was not applicable, so I have correspondingly written here for 34, 35 and 36 as not applicable. And going to 37th question, so here please mention the place name of where you are submitting your Poland visa application, and also the date in the format of DD-YYY- in the format as shown here. So this should be the date when you are submitting your Poland visa application. And going to the last point where again the place and date is mentioned, so here also mention the place name where you are submitting your visa application, and similarly the date also in the format as DD-MMM-YYYY in the format as shown here. So the date again here, it should be the date when you submit your application. This is how the application for my dependent spouse was filled in, and this is based on my experience. I hope this video would be helpful to you, the way how to know how to fill the visa application for your dependent spouse for Poland location. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos like this. Thank you. Bye bye.